And welcome to a new episode of Talking Snooker with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Once again, talking about the game we all love.
We are indeed in the midst of the snooker season now. You can tell it's turning to autumn because I've already got the first cold of the season. So sorry if I sound a bit bunged up on this one, but I'll soldier on. But yeah, plenty to talk about. The English coming to an end and the British already starting. It's non-stop.
It is, and you messaged me earlier about your cold. I'm sorry about that. And I texted back to say, because I'm a totally cliche Brit, I'll just say it's a change in the weather. Everyone says that, don't they? It's absolutely meaningless. You can't prove it or unprove it. I wish that would be I think that's a change in the weather. Right, okay. What about if you get one in the middle of the season, it's still the same? Or there's no quite answer for that one. But yeah, sorry to hear that. I can see it in you as well. And our YouTube listeners, all 14 of them, they'll be able to see it in you as well.
You see my drained, tired face. Yeah, me sipping a purpley Lemsip here, but we'll get there. We'll be fine.
The purples are better than the lemons, aren't they?
I definitely think so. Yeah.
Yeah, the lemons are a bit much, I find. But both are available in Boots and other pharmacies. This is a very odd start to the podcast. If Neil Robertson was listening, which I don't know if Neil does, he'd be thinking, wait, I just won a bloody big tournament. Can you stop talking about the weather and Lemsips and get on with it?
We'll do our best, but get the big names in there. We'd love to get a sponsorship from Boots. That'd be great.
Wouldn't that be something else? We know we've really made it. Then let's bang on. Maybe give Boots a call in the morning or something. But until then, let's say Neil Robertson, Phil, back in the winners' circle. You know, I was saying on social media, I think in absolute fair, not everybody. I did see a few whispers. Oh, he might never get there again to the high standard. I think most of us did think really that he'd sort of bounce back to either near his best or frankly his best and the top of the game. But we might not have thought it would happen this quickly by September. This is pretty soon. He's won the English Open. We'll talk lots about the final. He beat Wu Yize in 9-7. Wasn't sure it was going to be a tremendous final at one stage. It turned into that. But a word about Robertson. I was just thinking, we all knew Neil was popular, but the reception has shown how popular this guy is. Made me think, I wonder how many players in snooker are kind of universally or very nearly universally popular. And I went through a few of the top ones and I thought, quite a few aren't really for varying reasons. But Neil is getting towards that. I mean, he is a popular guy. I said liked and admired by fans everywhere. It's frankly great news for the sport, isn't it? That he's right back at the top and winning stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. We really want as many genuine contenders for big tournaments as possible. I think when you're going into events and you don't know who's going to win because there's so many real elite level players, and all the better. And Robertson, well, we've known he is that in general. He's not been showing that for a while, but yeah, straight back there now. And it was an interesting run. He had Ross Moore in last 16, Wu Yize in the final, not obvious opponents that level, but tricky ones as well. Murphy and Hawkins and Waitling on the way, that's not easy. And he looked good throughout, really. Even we'll get to the final. Even when Wu Yize was putting on that amazing performance, Robertson never really faltered, I would say. He just had to deal with that for a while. So yeah, look, very impressive. He always talks such a good game, doesn't he? Very rarely says anything that sounds like he's not about to batter everyone. But so it's hard to work out necessarily when that's going to happen or not. And obviously, he went through that sticky spell where even when he was losing matches, he didn't look awful, but he was clearly struggling a bit. But yeah, all behind him now, and like you say, yeah, very nice to see, and a lovely scene with his family and all of that. So yeah, good stuff.
Very much so. And a 24th ranking win for Robertson. First for more than 2 years, mind. So it just shows how long he's been away from it. It reminded me of Selby winning the English, which I've gone
Yeah.
on about a lot because I was there, but same tournament, obviously, and it's similar length of time, and it felt like right back, that feeling of, and I guess whoever you are, there's always going to be slight doubts, even in the person involved, in this case, Neil, because you think until you do it, you're never quite sure. But yeah, what a final it was, Phil. I mean, goodness, we thought it was just going to be one-sided, didn't we? Wu Yize, obviously, who did tremendously well to get into the final. We'll talk a bit more about him specifically coming up, of course. But Neil 7-1 ahead after the first session, breaks of 75, 71, 77, 61, 104, 10, and 138 104, 138 from Robertson. So really good scoring. So we thought, will it be still going at 8 o'clock? Might even be done by 7:30. That one, I remember Selby one. I was down at Crawley, pretty much was. And I remember a journalist came with me that I don't think he'd ever. You know Matt Nash actually from Metro. I don't think he'd either never been or hadn't been for so long. I think it was never. And I say it was a bit unlucky. It was done by 7:30. Matt came for that night, and he didn't see much at all. But anyway,
that was the one against Gilbert.
That's it, against Gilbert. It was, yeah. But this one, well. 8 o'clock, we were going long after 10 o'clock, Phil, because it was, well, I'll tell you the whole story of the night. We made a 127 for 7-2. So what are you thinking? Well, he's showing the public watching and people there what he can do. Then Neil went 8-2. That's just one away from victory. But then, my goodness me, either side of the interval, so that didn't break his spell. It was just magnificent stuff from Wu. Breaks of 100, 82, 73, 95 and 50. To make it 8-7. You know, Robertson was totally frozen out, Phil, and I was out and about last night. So there's possible I was distracted for one or two shots, but I can't honestly remember the last time I saw any pro have that many ghastly shots within an hour spell. And in a row, a lot of them. It just seemed like he was either on the cushion, tight against the baulk cushion or another cushion. Balls were blocking his path to reds. It was just a horrible period. And as he alluded to himself, I think he needs to be a man of experience to get through that. And he also needed a fluke. He got a fluke in the next frame. That was it, the 16th frame. And a timely one it was in every way. And he got a break of 55 from that to get himself to the finish line. And Wu had a couple of flukes as well. Made you think, is he going to win this bloody thing? And Robertson says, good quotes, Phil, he completely froze me out. He played some of the best snooker I've ever seen in that 5 or 6 frame spell. Inspired stuff. It wasn't looking good at one stage. You start thinking of runner-up speeches and how humble you're going to be after being 8-2 up. It means everything. My dad's here. He's never seen me play in a final before. 20 years I've been pro. And he's not been in the country when I've been doing well. This is the first title I've been able to win with my dad here, which means the world to me. My kids are here too, and Miller, his wife Miller, as well. And this is the first tournament I've won with Joe. That's Joe Perry, of course, and I working together. It's a lot of firsts, and hopefully there'll be many more. So yeah, what a night it was, Phil. I'll have a word about Wu's performance coming back. Neil got over the line. It was just a special snooker night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, because especially, as you say, it was unexpected when we went into that evening session. We weren't hopeful of that much, really. And Wu just turned it on. He was so good. And then when he did start getting the run as well, quite spectacularly, there were a couple of fluke pots, but there were a couple more where he was very fortunate to sort of leave nothing on when he missed a long ball or something like that. So it did sort of start to feel that everything was going his way, and we were about to see something sort of historic in terms of a comeback. But we didn't quite get that much, but it was more than enough to make it a brilliant final, and even in defeat to show everyone what Wu is capable of, and that he's got a big future at the top of the game, because he was very, very impressive to do that from behind. I know people will say, you hear people say sometimes when you sort of get to the point where you think, oh, I can't win it, and it frees you up a bit and you can just play naturally. Maybe there was something to that. He certainly looked like he was playing like that, but you've still got to do it. And he was so good. And he looked happy enough at the end, because I'm sure at 8-2 down, he obviously hadn't given up. The way he played, he hadn't given up, but he knew hopes were distant. So to at least put on a performance and come away and feel good about it, he looked like he was happy enough at the end, as he was very coolly posing, doing the thumbs up and the peace signs. He looked great. Yeah, I love watching him and can't wait to see some more of him.
Yeah, you summed that up very well. He was he looked the part, didn't he? I mean, that form he showed in that spell, it was like, wow. I mean, all the things people have said about him. And well, one obviously very strong judge in the game, Alan McManus, has been talking about him for a while and really taken by his quotes last night, Phil. McManus said, I've been a fan of him for a few years, but it just dawned on me tonight. I know he's not in this class, not anywhere near it, but he reminds me of John Higgins. I witnessed John as a kid come of age very, very quickly at this level. And I thought, my goodness, we're seeing something incredibly special. Neil was a bystander for 4 or 5 frames, pretty much, and that takes something incredibly special. We have not seen the last of Wu Yize, not by a long shot. He's going to win these things, and yeah, he showed maturity far beyond his years. They already are some quotes from McManus there to obviously saying, not at the class level, of course, as John Higgins, but even to be mentioned in the same breath, I think that really is something. And obviously, Neil's family there, it was, emotional stuff for him. He's an emotional man, Neil. And I always think, apropos of almost nothing, Neil's probably the human being I most relate to in snooker. And I've thought that for some time on nearly every level, pretty much every level. And I always think his emotion emotion at the right time sounds almost ridiculous, like he's like a robotic putting it up. But I always think, yeah, his emotion makes total sense to me. And his dad being there was nice. The most Australian man, I think, Phil, his dad, since maybe Slim Dusty. I mean, that's going back a while. Slim Dusty, you may remember, some of you out there. In fact, he was so Australian, I'm expecting him to pop up one day in old episodes of Prisoner Cell Block H. I mean, that's another one that might have gone over your head. That was a hell of a show back in the day. I'm sure a few of you listening may remember that. Late night viewing here in the UK, the likes of Joan Ferguson, B. Smith, Lizzie Bursworth. My goodness, in my life, I loved them all, those characters, Phil. But Neil's dad, I mean, that was, that was a masterclass in being an Aussie, eh?
Yeah, it was interesting because it was one of those moments you were expecting sort of maybe the odd tear, but there certainly was a dry eye in the place, wasn't it? You didn't seem particularly moved by it at all, really. But it was funny, really, to watch because I don't know, Neil and his family were sort of laughing away. I think they just know that's what he's a bit like. But yeah, it takes a lot to impress Ian Robertson, that's for sure.
Fair way of saying it, yeah. It was smashing because obviously Neil's done so much in the game, and we often heard about his relationship with his family, and I'm not bugbear's not the right way to say it, but I'm sure in some ways it's a sore point that he has to ply his trade on the other side of the world, and it's just the way it is for him, and just to see his family there was just obviously so special, and well. Phil, let's go back, shall we? Back to the last day. I've just deleted a message, which is very annoying with some of the information here, but hopefully I've got an older version that will stack up and still deliver the goods here. Well, when we were last on air, we were just heading into the last 16, weren't we? And just one result to come, and that was Neil Robertson, Sean Murphy. Neil was leading that. He did complete a 4-1 victory. So we went into the last 16 stage then and got the results from that stage. Wu Yize beat Ben Wollaston 4-2. Mark Selby had a tight one, a tense one, beat Si He 4-3, break of 61 from Mark in the decider. It was Ishpreet Singh Chadha for Fang Zhengji 2, breaks of... sorry, I got mixed up there. Ishpreet Singh Chadha 4, Haige Kwang 3. Let me get the matches right. And it was Judd Trump 4, Fang Zhengji 2, breaks of 101 and 81 from Judd. So it was Singh Chadha beating Haige Kwang and Judd Trump beating Fang Zhengji. Neil Robertson beat Ross Muir 4-1. And it was Mark Allen 4, John Higgins 3. Obviously significant there for Higgins' reasons, as well as Allen winning the match. But big Higgins reasons. He made breaks of 108 and 105. The second, his 1000th century in professional snooker. And just say congratulations from us, Phil, everyone in snooker. What a Higgins reaction. I know we both picked up on that. So humble, few sort of little waves. Not as big as I've just done it. If you're watching on YouTube, it was more like that, wasn't it? Oh, not me. Oh, this isn't great. I've not done much. That's the kind of vibes you get, isn't it, from him? Yeah. But that's always been one of his great strengths, great qualities for me, his humility. Chris Wakelin 4, Pan Jung Soo 3, and Barry Hawkins 4, Kyron Wilson 2. I'm off results reading duty for a while, Philip. That's the sort of standard. I'll try and get it back for the last 8 onwards. But a few words from you there. Kicking off with Higgins. Great achievement. The second man to do it.
Yeah, of course. It's monumental stuff, really. I know he'll probably go away from that and just being annoyed to lose. Sport is just so much about winning and losing, isn't it? But things like that are just sensational things. Second person ever to do it. It's a bit funny that Judd's about to probably do it this week. So maybe does that diminish it? Just in the headlines at the minute, it might diminish it a bit, but it's incredible stuff. And I don't know, maybe it shows where he's in at the minute. Like he's still playing great snooker, knocking in 2 tons, reaching that milestone, but still losing the match to Mark Allen at the last 16 stage, which has got to be frustrating for him. But yeah, very special player. And I think it's nice that he was the second one after O'Sullivan to do it. Judd's got plenty of time to get lots more records and stuff. So nice for John to get that. But yeah, no, it was a great round, that last 16 round. All sorts going on there, really. That Wakelin Pang match, Wakelin was 3-0 down in that and won 4-3, which is some effort. You knocked in 3 half centuries to take it to decider. And Pang made a half century of his own. I forget the ball he missed the middle, but and then Wakelin pounced. But yeah, fantastic game. And yeah, this is when Ishpreet started sort of. He beaten Hussein in the previous round, didn't he? And then to beat Hagel Kwang, which didn't on paper looked like a massive result, but he'd obviously beaten Ronnie and Maguire, I think it was beforehand. So really showing what he was capable of there, and obviously more to come from him in a sensational quarter-final.
Oh God, well teed up. I mean, that was absolutely magnificent. I watched, I think, pretty much every ball of that. Ishpreet Singh Chadha 5, Mark Selby 4 is, of course, the match you're referring to. I mean, Singh Chadha was 4-1 up. And like any match like that, you are just thinking it's Mark Selby. So it's almost like you're half prepared for it to go on for about 2 hours longer. And lo and behold, typical of Mark, he scrapped his way back as only he can. But it was an unexpected twist, wasn't there? Because then you thought, oh, not at the start of the decide, you weren't sure he was going to win, although he would have been favourite. But when he went ahead in that frame and looked like the table was very much in his favour, then you did fancy him for sure. But credit to Ishpreet Singh Chadha, he cleared up brilliantly. Now, my coverage ended watching Discovery through Amazon Prime just before he cleared those remaining balls. And a few others did say they had that issue as well, but many others didn't via the Discovery Plus app or watching on Eurosport. So I don't know if that's a particular Amazon Prime problem, but I certainly wasn't alone. It wasn't my telly or anything. So that was a bit annoying. But I mean, what wasn't annoying was the match in general. Absolutely brilliant. You know, so much credit to Ishpreet for that. What confidence you'll take from that. Elsewhere, Wu Yize 5, Judd Trump 3. Breaks of 108 and 62 from Wu. Judd loses snooker match, Phil. That's the bloody headline. Chris Wakelin 5, Mark Allen 2, 3 half centuries there from Wakelin. Good win. Continues sort of Allen's messy start to the season, really. And Neil Robertson 5, Barry Hawkins 1. So yeah, back to you about more words about that Ishpreet Singh Chadha and Mark Selby match. Just a cracker.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, Ishpreet looked so good at the start, and he made 70 yard and they made a ton when he was 3-0 up. But then I mean, when it went into that decider, I remember thinking I'd be stunned if he could pull this off, because it was all Selby and Ishpreet had looked pretty gone at that point. I didn't look at the odds, but they would have been heavily in Mark Selby's favour. And as you say, as the frame played out, they continued to be. But yeah, what a clearance at the end! I think it was his first red to get in. Was that the last red on the table that got him in at the end?
Either last or penultimate. I saw Neil Foles was raving about it.
Yeah, it was superb. And then tricky on the colours. It wasn't like they were all lined up. So yeah, incredible stuff. He's obviously super talented. He's got a unique sort of style. He hits everything very hard. Well, most things very hard, almost too hard at times. But it's interesting to watch players go about things a different way. And he certainly does that. And it was very effective there. So yeah, incredible stuff. And I enjoyed all the scenes. Well, it was Wu's dad and Ishpreet's mum were the story of the crowd over the week, weren't they? It was nice stuff. And yeah, elsewhere, I think Judd had sort of run out of gas and he didn't play very well in that game. Alan didn't play well at all against Wakelin. I think he was really struggling with the conditions, which, to be fair, we're getting a lot of stick over the week. I think Alan mentioned on social media that he's playing near a swimming pool does not help conditions at all. And he certainly wasn't alone in criticising what they were having to deal with on the table. And then, yeah, the Robertson Hawkins match, I didn't see much of. It was a bit of an odd one. I mean, only 1/2 century in the first frame from Robertson, and then to win 5-1, you wouldn't expect that. But won a few close ones, and obviously a great win against Barry Hawkins.
No, definitely. And then we were left with four players, and you know, Robertson, as he would have topped many polls. He did top our poll and pretty clearly as well. But to me, there were a few doubts actually. I must admit, because I thought, well, he hasn't really, you know, been here that often very recently. And even when he did in those semis, which you've referenced a few times now, a couple of seasons ago, he couldn't really quite get the job done. So I certainly didn't go into it thinking this is Neil's into the weekend, I have to say. But anyway, Wu Yize 6, Ishpreet Singh Chaddha 0 was the first semi. Not really a contest at all, was it? It was over by, I remember I was getting the bus to work. I think it was done by probably before 4 o'clock, actually. Two half centuries from Wu. His scoring was by no means spectacular, actually, but it didn't really need to be. And a lot of people referencing, and I think probably quite rightly, that Ishpreet, winning so late against Selby in that sort of epic match, it must have had an impact. It must have. And the other one was also one-sided. Neil Robertson 6, Chris Wakelin 1, two half centuries in that one from Neil. Comfortable in there. Good run again from Wakelin, but he'll be disappointed he didn't get closer to Neil than that. And then the final, as we've been saying, Neil Robertson 9, Wu Yize 7. So yeah, the semis weren't particularly up to much in terms of contest. They saved it for the final, Phil.
Yeah. Yeah, I say this all the time. I probably should stop saying it, but when people go on these runs, that it's their best run of their career, and then it ends, and it can end unceremoniously. Like, I hope he doesn't go away too disappointed, Ishpreet Singh Chaddha, because sensational effort to get to the semi-finals, and huge in his bid to stay on tour. 21 grand on the rankings there, but obviously he'll come away from losing 6-0 and not playing well in the semi. Gutted, I imagine, but hopefully looking back already on the positives. And yeah, same for Chris Wakelin. He's more sort of used to getting to these stages now. And he is genuinely, he's the last couple of years since the shootout or just before the shootout he won, he's transformed as a player from the couple of years before that. Much more of a force at the business end of tournaments, and really impressive. I really like listening to him speak. Confident, a lot of belief in himself, speaks very positively. Yeah, good guy. Really enjoyed having him on here when he came on. So yeah, nice to see him doing well, and another good week for him.
Yeah, I was just thinking you referenced looking it up now as we speak. When was that? I couldn't quite remember. Was it last year? I think it was last year. It was, yeah, just over a year ago, August 2023. And I thought he was smashing value on here. Many people voting to say that. Many listeners. He's a good guy, Chris Wakelin, and you have to just wish him well. And he is, as you say, his improvement is obvious, and he's certainly no stranger to getting to latter stages. Another good run for him. Well, that was the English Open, and the crowds are very good, really. I mean, that's what we've got to say. I mean, it's never a venue that's going to set your world on fire, is it? It's a leisure centre, of course, but in terms of putting on an event, it's more than functional, I would say. It does the job, and the public turn out there. I mean, is it I think both times I've been now, I enjoy speaking to other fans at all events, but I really enjoyed it at Brentwood because you're sort of like, they're just good snooker fans. They're good snooker people. You have good old chats with them about the game and different character players they like. And I really enjoy sort of meeting the public there, I think, particularly. And yeah, that's the first home nations. We always enjoy them, I know. And maybe finish about your own word about the tournament and maybe just a bit more on Neil. It's he's back in the winner's circle, and he could have he'll want to go on from this. He's not the sort of guy back in the top 16, of course. We should say that means the great John Higgins, is out of the top 16, which is a line as well. A lot of stuff to emerge from this tournament. So that's obviously significant. But Robertson, not the kind of guy I think to be now, especially after what's happened the last year or two. I'm in there now. Now I'll sort of rest on my laurels a bit. He'll want more and more, won't he?
Oh yeah, and you wouldn't rule him out winning anything now. It's funny to think that the last tournament he won was that Tour Championship 2 years ago, and he was sort of the best player in the world really at that point. And if you'd have said then it'll take over 2 years for him to win his next tournament, no one would have believed it. But yeah, I don't think many would doubt his ability to now win more this season. He'll be feeling very confident in himself, but in his whole new setup with Joe Perry and stuff like that. So yeah, he's going to be a real force. as we've been used to him being for the vast majority of the last sort of 15, 20 years. But we just had a little spell without it, but it's certainly back now. So looking forward to seeing him play this week. Yeah, big news about Higgins, isn't it? It's just an amazing record, 29 years, unbelievable consistency to remain in the top 16 for that amount of time. It's just absurd, really. And it's a shame, really, because he could be back in by the end of this week.
Yeah.
And then it'll just be like
Mark Allen said that, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
And of course he might not, but if he does pop back in and the whole record's ruined just for literally 7 days, that would be irritating. But yeah, I mean, it's no. He's only 17 in the world. It's not like he's tumbled down the rankings. Like I said in that game against Allen, he's narrowly losing to one of the best players in the world in the last 16. It's just sort of how it's going for him at the minute. But he could easily have a good run here. And yeah, Brentwood, it is what it is. Everyone knows what it is. It's not the flashiest venue. It's not the flashiest place. But I don't know. I think it shows the state of the tour that we sort of take the mick out of this tournament a little bit sometimes. Like, oh, it's Brentwood after Saudi and whatever. Get used to that. But if this is one of the lesser tournaments on the tour, it's not bad, is it? I always enjoy these Home Nations events. Everyone's in them, playing for good money now. 100 grand. The prize money's gone up throughout the levels this season. And yeah, like you say, the crowd, the crowds are good. We were complaining about the bad crowds in Saudi. You can't offer that insult at Brentwood. They turn out from the first morning, and it was packed throughout the last few days. So yeah, it's not going to win any beauty prizes, is it, this tournament? But it's just good for what it is.
I don't think me and you are going to win any beauty prizes soon, but who knows? They'd be quite kind of maverick odd prizes if they were.
I'd be surprised. Yeah.
Yes. Well, if you say you often say that thing about players that aren't used to having good runs, having them but still being disappointed, then I'll say that thing that I often say about the home nation being bloody good for our game. There's another reason we love them. They give us stories left, right, and centre. You never get bored for a minute with those. It's all the stories all the time, which I think is a very good thing for our business. That was the English Open then, and we should say you are listening here to Talking Snooker in association with Blackcurrant Lemsips with Bill Haig and Nick Metcalf. The British Open is underway, Phil, in Cheltenham, but without Ronnie O'Sullivan. He pulled out today. This is a WST statement. Ronnie O'Sullivan has pulled out of the Unibet British Open, which starts today in Cheltenham. He was due to face Mansawin Fetmalaikal at 7 p.m. on Monday. O'Sullivan has been replaced by Lewis Ulla, the highest available player from the 2024 Q School ranking list. So no Ronnie this week. And as we're recording, no Mark Williams, the defending champion, out, beaten 4-1 by Rory Thor. He was really bad. I think it's not just so much a curse I put on him, Phil, with my Sporting Life column waxing lyrical about how great he is and remains. It's more likely the new cue he's using, isn't it? He's taking some time to get used to that. This is Stephen Hendry on that Williams performance, which was, really bad. Hendry says here, it was a very, very poor performance. He's using a new cue. I hope he was paid nicely, but it's going to derail his season. It's going to take him a bit of getting used to. It sounded horrific, and his play was horrific. It was very, very bad. Now, a lot of people referencing the noise that it's making when he's playing shots. I was thinking, if it carries on being like this, maybe he'll lend it to you for the Tony Mio.
I don't want it. Yeah, no, I think he's keen to point out that it's the tip that makes the noise, although it's of course part of the cue. But so he's got a new cue and a new tip. So it's all change straight after he got to the final in Saudi. And yeah, I mean, he didn't look good in Brentwood either. And that game he lost to Ben Williston, I watched. But yeah, he was. There's no two ways about it. He was really bad against Rory Thor. I reckon he missed sort of 4 or 5 shots where in a normal match you'd think, cool, that's going to be his worst shot of the season. You're not going to miss an easier ball than that. And he missed a string of them in the same game. So, yeah, I saw him tweeting before this tournament saying he's been practicing really hard with his new cue, knocked in a 147 with it in practice. But it's going to take some time to get used to it on the match table, clearly. Which is a shame because yeah, he's clearly playing well before. So hopefully it's not going to be too long like that because it wasn't a pretty watch at all. Rory Thor did what he needed to do to win that game, but he didn't even have to play particularly well to sort of beat him quite comfortably. So yeah, funny old thing. And yeah, I don't want to hear that noise much more. I don't know what it sounds like. I don't know how to describe it, but unpleasant for sure.
Yeah, you're right. Rory wasn't that amazing. He missed quite a lot, really. But yeah, he didn't need to be. Mark just gave him chance after chance after chance, and yeah, just a really bad performance. Elsewhere, then on this day one, we go through some results for you. Gong Chengzi 4, Tom Ford 3. Now, Mark Allen beat Gary Wilson 4-3. Mark was very unhappy on ITV after the game, saying the table played terribly, saying the table should be burnt. He was unhappy with the conditions. I think there was a suggestion that there's obviously been a lot of bad weather in the area. Suggestion that the door was being left open and it didn't help with the conditions. Also, Mark unhappy about being on table 2. So it's worth having a look at that when it appears on the ITVX service because it was really quite a storming interview, I suppose you'd say from a journalist point of view. But yeah, Mark really unhappy. Aaron Hill beat Ding Junhui 4-3. Another decider. I hardly get anything right, Phil, but I think I might be onto something. Even Michael Day, our good friend, gave me a very kind reference for that earlier. Another decider lost by Ding. Did mention a couple of weeks ago, didn't I? He seems to lose a lot of them. Judd Trump beat Robert Milkins 4-1. Judd on 999 centuries, Phil, after a 104 in the opening frame. Had the chance for the 1000s, and it also could have been a 147. He missed a black on 81. I mean, that would have been the most Judd thing ever. Had he done that. Just to flag it up, he's got Ryan Day tomorrow, I think, hasn't he? That's Tuesday night, where he'll be looking to get to 1,000 centuries. Ryan Day 4, Louis Heathcote 1. That's obviously, yeah, Trump against Day next. Luca Vassell beat Mohammed Shahab 4-1. It was John Higgins 4, Ross Muir 1, and Shaw Murphy 4, Ian Burns 0. And switching to the live video printer service, well, my goodness. I mean, 2 mighty results for young players getting used to life on tour here, Phil. Buxu Revez has beaten Ali Carter 4-3. I mean, Ali's won a tournament already this season. That's a mighty result. And if that wasn't enough, Liam Davis has beaten Barry Hawkins 4-1. So that is 2, really, seismic's a bit strong, but in snooker terms, they're dramatic results on what has been a dramatic Monday there in Cheltenham.
Yeah, huge amount of big names going out early there. And Gong Shengxi as well. So Tino just knocking out top names. He's winning against Tom Ford. Same boat, really. But yeah, it's really impressive. We've been calling out for where the next sort of generation's coming from for a while. And looks like we've got a handful of real talents this season. Bulksha Revez is, I think I counted that's his 6th win already this season. But it doesn't sound like a huge amount. It's only September. He's doing all right. And to beat Ali Carr, as he said.
That sounds like a lot, I think.
And yeah, Liam Davis has had some stinking draws, and he's got another one here against Barry Hawkins. But to win 4-1, very impressive. And yeah, Gong Zhengji again, he's been picking up results very regularly. So yeah, it's bad news for those guys who've lost, but it's great. It looks like good news for the game that we've got a wave of young talents coming through. Aaron Hill, that's a superb word against Ding. He's still only 22, Aaron. I know he's been around a little while now because he came on so young, but still a very good young talent. So yeah, I mean, shocks galore, but we don't mind seeing it.
Exactly. We often say the FA Cup style format, but that's one of the trademarks of the FA Cup, isn't it? Shock results, and that, we're getting quite a few here early on. So, have you got anything particularly more to say about the British? I mean, people can enjoy watching it. I mean, shame about Ronnie in terms of the fans, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's always so late, isn't it? Though when there's no Sullivan withdrawals, I don't think anyone was surprised by it because since this came back on the calendar, he's only played 1 match in it. He played 1 edition 2 years ago and lost Urson back in the first round. So I don't think we were stunned to see him not playing. But it always comes out on the morning of the tournament start. It's a bit annoying, but yeah, shame for the people who were hoping to see him. But yeah, they got everyone else though, but not for that long. Some of the other top game names out early, but. Yeah, I won't go through the draw now because it'll have not much value when people listen to it. But some great games coming up, and Yeah, I've really enjoyed this tournament since it's come back on the calendar. Always great coverage on ITV. Now see Rob Walker bringing the energy as much as he ever does in the practice room. He's going wild in there. It's a great watch.
It certainly is. And let's move on now and talk about Zhao Xingtong. This is copy from our friend Michael Day, the aforementioned Michael Day at Totally Snookered. Uh, Zhao Xintong has now made his return to snooker after serving his ban following the sport's biggest ever match fixing scandal. Zhao played in the second UK Europe Tour event of the season in Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria. Let's say this is information from Michael, actually, rather than copy, I should say. I took the information from him. It was Zhao winning, first of all, 3-0 over multiple Lithuanian national champion Vilius Schul Ebert. So that was a winning start. And then really showed some good scoring form, Zhao. He made breaks of 127, 124, and 57 in a 3-1 win over Welsh teenager Zach Koska. Zhao then did lose in the next round, the last 64. He lost 4-3 to Craig Steadman, who, of course, a very established player in the game. And, well, we should say, Phil, the event was won by Welshman Dylan Emery, so congratulations to him. He beat Harvey Chandler 4-3 in the final. This is now some information from David Caulfield at Snooker HQ. Great to have so many good sources of information out there. Emery took the opening frame of that final. But then Chandler really had his scoring boots on, made breaks of 86, 50, 54, and 68 to go 3-1 ahead. Then Emery came back with breaks of 74 and 69. It was level at 3-3. Emery won the decider. He moves into second place in the Q Tour rankings behind Andres Petrov, who won the first event of the Q Tour. And, well, there's so many good events Phil, and so many good players. I'm looking through the results, and just the semi-finals tells you a bit. Dylan Emery 4, Mark Joyce 2. Mark Joyce has played at the Crucible not so long ago. And Harvey Chandler 4, Liam Highfield. Liam Highfield, very established pro, of course, going back in the past. Harvey Chandler 4, Liam Highfield 2, and the other one before Emery got the better of Chandler in a tight final. So well done to him. He dropped off tour at the end of last season, so he'll want to get back on there. But obviously, Zhao will take time, you imagine, to get his sort of form back. But a couple of wins that, you know, and good scoring shows, of course, that class will always be permanent.
Yeah, for sure. Like just the score in that second match he won looked very impressive. But there's a lot of those kind of players that are going to be tough to beat. Craig Steadman, all the experience in the world. He's been through Q school so many times. He knows how to scrap it out. So if that got a bit down and dirty in that one, then he's going to be a hard man to get past. But yeah, Zhao, he's going to win a lot of matches on that. I'm not sure if this is the route he'll get back onto tour through. It might be, but I'm sure he'll find his way back onto tour pretty quickly, one way or the other. But yeah, lots of good players. You say Liam Highfield, I always think too good to be off the tour. And that semi-final against Chandler in the first frame, he knocked in a 1-4-2, which is not bad for amateur snooker, is it? That game looked incredible. Actually, I was just looking at the scores. Highfield went 2-0 up. Then in the final 3 frames, Chandler made 1-1-4, 1-2-7, and 88 in three of those 4 frames. So yeah, the standard is really excellent. And yeah, Emery was a player that a lot of people thought very highly of when he was on tour. It did look like a promising youngster. He's still only 23, so he's got plenty of time to bounce back onto tour and could still have a very bright future. So yeah, it's been a good start to the Q Tour. The first two events, successful ones.
Definitely, I didn't have a look at the scoring in that semi. I'm glad you did. That's the benefit of a double act, Phil.
Mm-hmm.
That's the benefit of a double act. So that was that event, and we maybe any other business stage. We've got a fair bit of that. Plenty of reading on Sporting Life. My first column of the season is live on the site now. As I reflect on the incredible life and times of Mark Williams, he'll turn 50 in the spring, but obviously still one of the game's top players and incredible career in the game. So hopefully you'll enjoy my piece on there. I also lavish praise on Judd Trump for his stunning start to the season and react to John Higgins making his 1,000th century break in professional snooker. Of course, it reminds me, Judd's on the way. Neil's not far away now. Neil might do it even possibly. I think he's about 40 or 50 away. He might do it this season or next, certainly, but could well be this. Also on Sporting Life, really have got some good writing on there. Neil Foles has written his first column of the season, focusing on Judd Trump and how he's already taking this 24-25 season by storm. And there's Chris Hammer's piece there on Saudi Arabia and why it cannot be considered the fourth major. So plenty on there for you. Thank you to Brian McGovern, by the way, for your message about our recent episode reviewing the event in Saudi, and particularly my words about disagreements. Appreciate that, Brian. And there's a new podcast on the scene, Phil, the Wine Rack Pod. Two obviously really big snooker fans, Jenny Bancroft and Chloe Johnson. Now, I've been really impressed, by the way, with the way they talked about snooker in Saudi. I'll just pick out one line from them. They say, women get it more than men. Men will never know what it feels like to be a second-class citizen. It's just luck of the draw that we haven't been born into that. Well, I think we'll let you all be the judge of that. But it strikes me, that we hear a lot of the male view on matters in this game, time and time again, including on this podcast. So it probably does us good to have different thoughts and opinions. And there's certainly plenty of those on this new pod. And also some entertaining features, Phil. Snooker players on Strictly, I think, for the last episode. So plenty of good new listening for snooker fans there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, they've had a few episodes, and I've been meaning to get on board properly. And I listened to the last one, and I tell you what, they put us to shame with the production value. Very nice, and yeah, I was enjoying that Strictly chat on there. It was very good. So yeah, no, shout out to those guys. Give them a listen.
Phil, everyone puts us to shame with production values. I mean, what? I mean, that's dabbing with faint praise, to be honest. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's like, what's that line? 2 cans and a piece of string. I mean, it's not quite that, but it's pretty. This is pretty British Telecom of the 80s service. This really. I shouldn't do us down too much. I should be bigging us up. What am I doing? Rod Studd last week, top guest. Rod, he took a bit of flack on social media, the old chap, didn't he?
Oh, he loves it.
He does love it, actually. I felt a bit guilty, and I thought, anything on Judd or Ronnie is it used to be really just Ronnie, but I think Judd now is sort of dangerous territory. If you have any sort of strong views on either of those two, you're on kind of shaky ground. But you're right about him loving it. I had a look the last couple of days, and that's all died down. But he's on about other things with fans. He loves a bit of it. That's his nature, I think. That's partly why we got him on. We also know he'd just be a great talker and a great thinker generally about sport. So he was top value, wasn't he?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Yeah. Yeah, touched on all sorts there, didn't we? Got a bit emotional when he was talking about health issues. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed having him on. Hopefully people enjoyed listening to that because yeah, a good hour spent.
It really was. Yeah, we love this company. Thank you again, Rod, for that, if you're listening. And, well, we're going to disappear pretty soon. Maybe we'll have a look at some other sporting matters, Phil. Mentioned the climax of the county championship last time. Well, it's done and dusted in terms of the top division and the main business of the title. Surrey have won the title for the third year in succession. So congratulations to them. Well, Premier League football always seems to be all kinds of drama, whatever the weekend. But I mean, that Manchester City Arsenal game was a barnstormer. I've seen some of those scenes afterwards. He was a bit naughty, wasn't he, old Erling Haaland, slapping Arteta on the back, saying, stay humble. That was funny old stuff. Having to go at a few other players. It was all happening. And, well, I enjoyed last night's NFL action, Sunday night action at the Passy-Young Avenue bar in central London. I was in heaven there, Phil. I even took my laptop for the snooker. And I'd actually had a good old roast dinner at home, so I didn't need to eat. But I'm definitely going to head back there because it was to eat as well. It was chicken wings, chips, tellies everywhere. I was that's the sort of stuff I love in life, so I really enjoyed that. President's Cup golf, I want to mention that coming later this week. Always enjoy that. United States against the international team. And it made me think again, when is snooker going to have a proper team event, Phil? I don't know why we can't get one off the ground. I mean, I don't see any drawbacks. Just able to do it, I don't think it'll be that hard to do. That's unbelievably sort of outlandish comment from the armchair. I'm sure it'll be hard to do, but to me there will be benefit in it, and we see it time and time again in sport. Sometimes sports aren't even as big as snooker. So anyway, I'll leave that. I'll chuck you that hot potato. Enjoy it.
Yeah, it's just tricky to think of the best format for it, and I think the problem now the calendar's so full. where are you going to squeeze it in? But yeah, I mean, obviously, like you say, you see such success in other sports that it'd be nice to think we could cash in on that. Yeah, because it's a way of. Do you remember that interview I did with Judd Trump? And he had an idea of doing it with like regions. And it was saying sort of like you could have some countries, but you could have like London or Yorkshire or
Oh.
Scotland as well. Or like, he said his little area would be like him and Lasowski from sort of that area. Just if you made them into almost like cricket franchises, which I can't see ever happening, but I had liked it as an idea. It was interesting. I remember thinking you could have like Yorkshire v Belgium as one of the matches, something like that. So who knows? Probably never gonna happen, but I liked it. Yeah, what else did I watch? Watched a bit of the boxing. Well, actually, I went to a gig on Saturday night, and then we ran out and watched the end of the boxing on my mate's phone. So glamorous stuff. Um, but yeah, spectacular scenes there. Watched a bit of Michael Van Gerwen winning in Hungary over the weekend. And otherwise, just watched an awful lot of snooker as always.
How big a favourite was Joshua? Because you're a big boxing man, really. Well, you are, and I'm not. It's been a constant throughout my life. I loved it at times when I was a boy. I don't really know much now, but I was working, doing subbing really. So I wasn't part of the writing team or anything, but others were. And there were sort of claims of astonishing fight. I saw one claim, the most astonishing fight of the century so far. I think that's 25 years. I mean, I think I misunderstood in my head how much Joshua was a favourite and how much the other guy was an underdog. Is that the case?
Yeah, I mean, he was heavy favourite with the bookmakers, but I did see a fair amount of people tipping Dubois, but you never know. Knock around social media, see enough people tipping anything, and boxing, you've always got a chance of a heavy upset. But yeah, Joshua was significant favourite with the bookmakers. But yeah, I mean, he's shown he can be beat on a regular basis. To be fair, now I mean, by people, well, by Usyk, he's got more skill than Daniel Dubois. But heavyweight boxing, it's a big old cliche, but it only takes one punch. But yeah, no, I think Joshua was about sort of 4-5 to 1 on in those terms, so reasonable upset.
All right. And again, it's probably a little knowledge of the dangerous thing, but I thought the referee was generous that kept letting that go. I mean, I had different views back from that. Some people said, "Oh no, Joshua was still in the fight, and he got a couple of big ones in his own, so he was still very much in that fighting mode." But it was close. Some of those counts, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. That seems to be the thing. If they got a heavy favourite, they do seem to get a bit more leeway from the referee at times. There's a really amazing bit of commentary from Shane McGuigan. I don't know if you've seen that doing the
On
rounds.
Five Live,
Yeah.
tremendous. Yeah.
Really good. He listens into the corner before the fifth round, and jumps straight in and say, "I'm not sure about that advice at all," and explains why. And then it played out perfectly. So, yeah, just dream stuff when you're a pundit for something like that to happen.
Was that Ronald McIntosh I could see next to him? I think it might
Yes.
have been. I
Yeah.
think he's a good voice. That he doesn't
He
get an
is good.
awful
Yeah.
lot of credit, but I think he does those big fights well. Michael Costello on the BBC for many years, wasn't it, in recent times? But yeah, I think Ronald does that as well. And I do remember that Judd Trump piece you wrote. I think he wrote it for me when I was editor of Snooker Scene.
I think it was
Um,
that. Yeah.
very proud to publish it. Very proud of everything that was in the magazine during my time in charge there. Now, I think it's time for us to disappear, Phil. We've discussed other sporting matters. We discussed the main snooker matters, which is Neil Robertson, of course, winning the English Open. Because I'm a huge video printer man, I'm going to just see if we can squeeze one more before we go. Kyron Mawson has won, Phil, the world champion. He's not having any of that shock business. I'm not having any of this, he says. He's beaten Julian Leclerc 4-0. So he's had a comfortable win there. And various big hitters are playing as we speak. Mark Selby is actually one of those players in action. He's got an interesting one against Pang Jung Soo. So we'll go away, perhaps watch some more snooker and say thanks very much. I salute you. Hope your cold gets better and keep on with those blackcurrant lemsips. We've got a new deal, haven't we? We've got a nice new deal there. Lovely.
I would take just a parcel full of lemsips rather than any cash at the minute. But yeah, no, thank you. I'm sure it won't last. But yeah, thanks for listening as always. A pleasure to speak to you, and we'll be back next week.
God knows what we're doing next week. We haven't discussed it, but we'll certainly
We'll do something.
for sure. We'll review the British Open. Will there be one off the back of that? I think there will one on the week
Straight
after.
into qualifiers, actually, I think.
But then Wuhan, Monday the 7th. So we can maybe have a look ahead at that. And then we'll maybe bring a voice or two to you pretty soon as well. So we always like doing that. That's it. Thanks for listening, everybody. Appreciate it. Keep your thoughts coming to us, talkingsnooker@yahoo.com or tweet us at talkingsnooker. For now, from your old friends, Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf, cheerio.